we conclude with the 22nd chapter of Tanya, of understanding that how everything comes from God, yet even the negative forces also, klipa, sitra achar, klipa, meaning the shell that covers over on what's inside, concealing, hiding. So we've explained it comes through a contraction. And now we're going to understand more clearly, what does it mean? What does it mean this klipa? What does it mean sitra achar? What does it mean the other side? What does it mean elokim achirim, other gods? So we understand that it's a negative force. We understand that it's not what God ultimately wants, right? In other words, it's only a compelled will of God. It's not the inner desire. And the metaphor we gave is like throwing a gift to somebody over your back because you don't want to look at them in the eye because you don't like them. You hate them. Right? So God hates evil. And when you pick up your hand to hurt somebody unprovoked, or even if it's provoked, whatever, let's just say unprovoked for the metaphor sake, right? And it's just for the metaphor, so let's not go, right? You get a power to do that. God gives you the power. He hates doing that, but does it. That you should be responsible for it, and ultimately you should do tshuva for that. But he hates it. So, let's understand now about the will of God, that the inner will, the inner aspect of God's will, is what he really desires as the source of life, that he gives it when we do good, raising our hand to be giving, not to strike somebody. Even in the raising of the hand, again, there's a power that you have. So God bestows life, vitality to us in two ways. One is an encompassing light, and one is an internalized light. One's called in the vernacular of mystical teachings, soiviv kol amim, encompassing light, that it surrounds, and one is memaled kol amim, that it is fills and internalized. So that which comes from the hinder part of God, not the countenance, but is the contraction of the light that gives vitality by means of sitra achar, the other side, right? It doesn't actually clothe itself within the individual. It encompasses the individual. And therefore it creates, by encompassing and not being from within, a vacuum. And that vacuum allows for death and impurity that ultimately leads to death. So therefore, that's why, because of the negative that we do, the sin that we do, there is death. Because by raising the hand to hurt somebody, the vitality that you're getting in that moment is an encompassing light that that only like drips and drabs of vitality come in, creates a vacuum, and therefore this is negativity. That negativity of impurity is in that vacuum of the light of God that is internalized, that is from with his internal will, is now, that vacuum creates ultimately death. And on that level of Seviv, it doesn't internalize. And that's why we call it other gods. Because it's the external aspect of God, right? The hinder part of God's will that is giving vitality, not resting itself or clothing itself from within. Clothing itself meaning being from within. Now, this doesn't constitute actual idolatry. In the sense that you know that there's something greater of vitality, this form of vitality but it's a denial of God's unity. There's a force beyond, but not from within. Okay. But then there's also another way we get vitality. We get vitality in two ways: encompassing and internalized. The internalized vitality that becomes a part of us, in this sense, is a complete denial of it. Because there cannot be a place within me that I am me and separate from God, and God's there at the same time. He can be beyond me in the first way we explained, right? But now for the internalized form of vitality, there has to be complete denial of it. Because otherwise there's no room for my identity. And this is exemplified by Pharaoh, that he says, I am, and there's nothing besides me. The river is mine and I made it myself. Because otherwise to identify with God from within would be a denial of your own personhood, in the sense that you would be nullified to that, to godliness. So the vitality that is enclosed within, there's a complete denial. And that's true idolatry. And that's why, to such a degree, that the river is mine, I mean, the Nile River. This is the ultimate in being of, the concept of denial. As the Nile is mine, and I made it. That's Pharaoh. That's truly idolatry. And where does this come from? An arrogance. An arrogance is that I am, me, myself, and I, and I'm so special. That I'm so special. It is tantamount to idolatry, that arrogance. Because you're sensing yourself to be a separate being. In other words, God's not. I am. Right? I'm talking about from within. In other words, within the context of who and what I am. Yeah, God he's up there, beyond, surrounding. Right? So that's the vitality, two different types of vitality. From within, I have to deny in order that I could be. And that I could soar like an eagle, that my selfhood could be expanded and become greater. So I need to be able to, I have to deny God from within. That's a vitality from within. And this is truly being separated from God. Because there's no place from within me if I'm going to fill me up with selfhood, with self-fulfillment. So much so that I'm the center of everything that's around me. That's arrogance. In other words, that's diametrically opposed to bittul, which is surrender of one's identity, that you are united in one with God. Arrogance is the denial of that unity of God. And that's why Arrogance is equated by the sages in the Talmud to idolatry. And that concludes chapter 22. Now let's summarize a bit over here. Through Tzimtzum, the contraction of the divine light, which is the divine word that animates. It's what gives life. It contracts itself into Klipa, into Sitra Acher. Klipa is the shell. It covers Sitra Acher, the other side, the knot of holiness. We perceive ourselves as separate entities from God. So now we can understand that speech has the two elements. There's speech. The purpose of speech is to reveal. The way we function through speech is to actually conceal. Think about it. The way I have it in my head is much more, the light is much more brighter in my head than it is in the words that I bring out. The words I bring out are not as clear as they are in my mind. As a matter of fact, the words are a container that kind of minimize the light in a sense. In a way, it conceals the brightness the way it is in my head. But that I can't give over. I can give it over in a language that is, in a sense, concealed. Its purpose is to reveal, but in a sense, it's concealing. And that's why often when we speak, we have to say it over and over in different ways so we can get all of the angles and perspectives of the way it is sort of, a bright light in our heads. Furthermore, when I speak, the word comes out of me and it's separate from me. So here we have the idea. The idea of speech is to reveal, yet the function of it is through contraction. So you have to take the idea you have in your head and bring it down into specific words. It means this, not that, and not necessarily. So it's bringing into a limited container, which container holds only something and not more. In that sense, it's limiting and revealing, but concealing at the same time the greater light that the person has. And at the same time, it becomes separate. So this is exactly what happens through God creating the world. From our perspective, at least. So God is revealing. He's revealing himself through the act of creation. He is revealing himself, but through that act, he's actually concealing himself because he's contracting upon his great light, just as we do with speech, to such a degree that the word comes out, and from our perspective, we feel the separateness of God creating us. It doesn't mean you have to deny God entirely. It just means that you're separate. You feel the separateness from God. And that's what speech does, because the word comes out. From God's perspective, we're not separate. We're united. We're totally bound up and one with him. From our perspective, in the act of creation, right, God is hiding himself, concealing himself. And to such a degree that he's so concealed that we feel separate from him, separate that he is surrounding me but not within me. And the surrounding is beyond. And not within, so I'm not totally nullified, subjugated, or my identity is only of him. It's not. And this is where we're going to go in the next chapters, is how indeed it should become that our identity from within is of God. We don't sense, we might know it intellectually, we're going to learn that, But it's about identifying with that, and that's my true being, and how that will express itself, as we will see through Torah mitzvahs. But that's where we're going. More on that to come, and how we can truly find the unity and the oneness with God, as opposed to what the creative, natural human condition is, that we sense separateness from God, and that the Word of God comes out and is separate in the fact that it creates me as this, in the sense of feeling separate. And from that separateness comes, therefore, my specialness, uniqueness, and hence arrogance in that feeling of my specialness. So you might say, hey, what's wrong with feeling special? Depends what you're feeling special about. About my qualities or about my godliness? Very different. My qualities, it's my qualities that I have that makes me special, makes me feel good about me. That's a broken person. A whole person is the godliness in you. That's your specialness. Oh, where was that bestowed from? Not by me, but by God. So he made me special, not me. And then for feeling my separateness, my uniqueness, my specialness, and feeling I'm so. No, it's God that made that. And even the qualities too. So there's nothing to feel like, you know what I accomplished, what kind of, a lot more to bring about that. Okay, any questions, any comments, any thoughts? Rambam coming up. It's Yud-Shvat. Gonna have a Fabring 12:15, a reminder. 12:15 Eastern Standard Time, New York time, Montreal time, Florida time, and other places on the East Coast. 12:15 on all three platforms. Okay, I think Zoom too, but I don't see no questions. All right, I guess we have clarity here. Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Tzvich Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, great day. It's Yud-Shvat, as a reminder, the day our Rebbe became Rebbe and the previous Rebbe passed away. Today, to think about our connection to the Rebbe, write upon a pidyon nefesh, redemption of soul. Write a letter to the Rebbe in the Ohel, Rebbe@ohelchabad.org. Rebbe@ohelchabad.org. Write into the Rebbe, ask for blessings. It's a special day for that. Give over some good news to the Rebbe about your growth and your greater commitment to Hashem, Torah mitzvahs for a Jew, 7 Noahide laws for non-Jews, and give a resolve to do something special. All the best. God bless you.